Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We are your hosts with our special guest once more, and probably at least once more after this, Sean Paul Russell.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our video viewers, we are all three of us dressed and ready to go for a funeral.
Anyway.
For our audio viewers,
No, we're not.
no, we're not. Why did we start this podcast?
We started this podcast because 2023 was a goofy year for movies.
Mm-hmm.
You got your classics like Cocaine Bear and 80 for Brady and 85 and...
You mean 65?
65.
Wow.
And I'm a big fan.
65 fans are gonna come for you in the comments.
Both of them, yeah. And et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you got wacky movies. We made a podcast about them.
Yep.
We're talking about a wacky movie today. And if you like hearing us talk about those movies, please consider supporting us on Patreon, rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts, and or following us on Instagram. All those things are helpful.
Please consider it and do it.
If that's the next step, love it. Today we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. One of the franchisee movies of 2023. The synopsis of it is daredevil archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary dial that can change the course of history. Accompanied by his goddaughter, he soon finds himself squaring off against Jürgen Voller, a former Nazi who works for NASA. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
We don't need another one. My first impressions. Harrison Ford, he's so brittle. He was in that plane crash. That didn't help anything.
No, most plane crashes don't help things.
I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Uh-huh.
I do want to say about the synopsis, I don't think Indiana Jones needs a descriptor. I don't think you need to call him Daredevil Archaeologist. I think you can just say Indiana Jones.
At this point, yeah, you would think so. But just in case this is your entry into the franchise, then you gotta know he's a daredevil.
Yeah.
He's a little jokester and a trickster.
What were your initial thoughts, impressions?
I remember thinking, oof, he's old. I hope he's okay. And then just kind of like, yeah, all right. I also like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And then it made sense just like not ending that franchise on the Crystal Skull note.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen all of the Indiana Jones movies, so I'm not like super attached to the franchise. I like Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the one that is in my memory the most. And Crystal Skull, actually, because I've seen that one just like on random TV movie channels the most, and just the wild ending. Sean, what were your first impressions?
I was like, we could always use some more time with Indiana Jones. I'd always take more time with Indiana Jones. After Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I was like, we're on a roll.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Uh-huh.
He's old, but he's strong. You know, he got his ankle crushed in the Millennium Falcon set, but he came back and he finished the film and he just kept rolling. He's still flying, like you're saying. So he's definitely there, and I was just glad to have more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He belongs in a museum at this point. So we talk about the trailer for these movies. We mostly talk about them to be like, how does this movie market itself? How is it maybe different from this movie? This is not different from this movie at all. So I didn't really do a breakdown because we're about to go through the plot.
Yeah.
I didn't want to repeat myself, basically.
That's fair.
I remember watching the trailer, and like I knew Phoebe Waller-Bridge was in it. I obviously knew Harrison Ford was in it, so like you get those shots revealing them. But I was most excited when Toby Jones showed up because I love Toby Jones.
That you do.
Yep.
The cast, obviously, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Helena Shaw, Toby Jones is Basil Shaw, Mads Mikkelsen is Dr. Voller, John Rhys-Davies is Salah, Karen Allen is Marion Ravenwood, Antonio Banderas is Ronaldo, Boyd Holbrook is Klaber.
Kleber.
Olivier Richters is Hoke.
Yeah.
He's a 7'2" Dutch bodybuilder.
Yeah, when we were watching, he's one of the Nazi bad guys. But when we were watching it, we were like, that guy has to be a wrestler or something. Who is he?
Yeah.
He's 7'2" and he's a Dutch bodybuilder. That's who he is.
Shawnette Renee Wilson is Mason. Thomas Kreshman is Colonel Weber. Ethan Isidore is Teddy Kumar. It's his first feature film role.
He is.
He's
a
new
child.
short round.
Yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Helena is Indiana Jones's goddaughter. She's the child of Basil Shaw. Dr. Fuller is a Nazi. Salah is Indiana Jones's friend. Marion Ravenwood is his wife. Ronaldo is a new buddy. Right? We don't.
I don't recognize him.
I
Did
didn't
you
recognize
recognize?
The character name, Ronaldo?
Yeah, Antonio Banderas' character, the guy.
Oh,
with the boat.
like he hasn't been in it before.
Yeah.
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 But he's also an old friend.
Yeah, he was like, I got a buddy with a boat.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. Again, not super familiar with the franchise in general. So I was like, I don't know if this is a reference to someone, but I think it's just Antonio Banderas.
The guy who actually flew the plane in the first one, in the first sequence.
Oh,
It's him.
okay.
Yeah.
Thinking three-dimensionally.
Yeah.
Portals.
Yeah. Kleber and Hawk are the Dr. Voller's assistants. Mason is a CIA agent who works with Voller. And then Teddy Kumar is new short round.
Yep.
So the plot of this movie. It's 1944. Indiana Jones and his friend Basil are captured by Nazis, including Voller. They're trying to find the Lance of Longinus. Sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The lance is fake. It never comes up again. They escape and they manage to take the one valuable thing that the Nazis did have, which is half of Archimedes' dial. This is going to be a very general overview.
Yep.
1969. We jump forward to 1969. Indy is about to retire. He's a grumpy old man. There's paperwork on his counter showing his wife Marion has recently filed for divorce. Indy's goddaughter / Basil's daughter, Helena, shows up and she wants to research the dial. Indy shows her the dial, realizes she's hiding things from him, and the two are attacked by Voller's associates / the CIA agents. Voller now works for NASA. Helena escapes with the dial. Indy is framed for the murders of Voller's men committed. He rides a horse through the subway. Indy's friend Salah gets him out of the country, and he heads to an auction where Helena plans to sell the dial. He interrupts the auction. Voller interrupts him interrupting. There's a big fight and a chase sequence to get the dial. Voller ends up with it after Indy, Helena, and her teen buddy Teddy chase Voller down. Indy and company meet up with Ronaldo, who has a boat, to find a tablet that will reveal the other half of the dial. There's an underwater treasure sequence. Voller interrupts them again and kills Ronaldo, and then Helena, Teddy, and Indy escape to the next step in the search. They find Archimedes' tomb, and Teddy is kidnapped by Voller along the way. There's a fight for the second half of the dial. Teddy and Helena are okay, but Indy gets shot. Voller puts the dial together, takes Indy with him onto a plane that'll go into a time fissure, because the dial can predict time fissures. Didn't actually put that in there. There's time travel. And Voller reveals his plan. He's going to go back in time to 1939 and kill Hitler. Indy tells him his calculations are wrong because of continental drift. We're with me?
Uh-huh.
Great. The plane arrives at the siege of Syracuse in 212 BC instead of 1939, and the armies think that the plane is a dragon and they fire at it. Indy escapes with Helena, who has stowed away onto the plane, and Teddy is following in another plane, and the two of them parachute out before the Nazi plane goes down. They meet Archimedes, who apparently made the dial to only go back to 212 BC. Helena tries to convince Indy to go back to their time. He wants to stay. She ends up knocking him out. Indy wakes up in his apartment in 1969, and Helena is there. Teddy walks in with Marion, then Salah and his grandkids show up. They leave to give Indy and Marion privacy, and the final shot ends on a hand grabbing Indy's hat hanging from the clothesline outside. That's the general overview. There's a lot that happens in this movie. Got a couple things that stuck out to me, but I don't know if we want to. Where do we want to start? This was a long one.
It was like 250,
Mm-hmm.
right? 2 hours.
Yeah, I thought like 2:39.
Okay, 240.
2 hours 34 minutes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It was long, and it kind of felt long to
Mhm.
me. And then I feel like there were a lot of scenes that just kind of dragged, and I don't know. It wasn't a movie that super flowed in a way that was just like, this makes sense. It was more just like a plot excuse, or like move the story along type
Mhm.
of like Ronaldo, and how we don't know who that is, and it's just like, oh, he's an old friend of mine, and then he dies within 5 minutes. You say in the description that Teddy is in a different plane following them.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy is like 13 years old.
Yeah.
He's never flown a plane. The first time you see him, he has like a makeshift out of cardboard control panel, and a pilot is like telling him what to do.
Yeah.
And then the first time he flies a plane is in this giant thunderstorm.
Yeah. He has
There's
like
some big stretches of imagination.
he has
I
some
feel like.
theoretical knowledge of how to fly a plane, and then he's taught by like drunk pilots who hang out at this hotel that he
Yeah.
I guess works at, hangs around. And then they're like at the airstrip trying to figure out how to save Indy. And Helena is like, "Can you fly that?" And he's like, "I've never flown a whatever type of plane it is before." And she's like, "You've never flown any plane before?" And he's like, "I'll go get it started." And then
Yeah.
he jump starts the plane. Also, I didn't put this in there, but there's a random guy who is asleep in the plane.
Because it's his plane.
Yeah. So he's sleeping in the plane, and then he wakes up in the time fissure thing as Teddy is flying the plane, and he speaks German and Teddy doesn't. So they're just like, they can't communicate, and they're just like screaming. I thought, because it went back in time, I thought that guy was gonna get left behind and then become like one of the great minds that were like, wow, the ancients were so advanced, and it's just a pilot who got stranded in a time
Yeah.
fissure. I was like, why is he here?
No, it was weird because like they reveal that he's there when they're flying in the storm, and there's just like one quick shot, and then like it shows him like sort of waking up in the back, and it's just like, oh, there's a person?
Yeah, there's like suspenseful music, and they reveal that Teddy's not alone in this plane, but then nothing happens with it. So then it kind of felt like Disney was like, well, we can't have a child fly through the storm alone. He needs adult supervision. And then they gave him like backup, but yeah.
I might have an idea, like, because when they're flying, the plane dies when they get through the fissure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the adult's like, I'm going to grab this throttle and pull up. So, like, maybe he, like, we're supposed to be like, Teddy doesn't know that much about flying to survive a...
Which is realistic.
So maybe we should put an adult in the plane who
is-
actually knows how to save...
This is a grounded film.
Yeah.
I read some stuff, like interviews from the team, and they're always thinking about how they can justify these crazy things,
Yeah.
whether it's like that or.
Well, let's get into that, because at the beginning of the film, when we're in the 1940s,
Mhm.
they're on a train trying to escape, and Voller, whatever,
German.
Mads
Mikkelsen.
Mikkelsen, he's on the side of the train, and the train's going real fast,
Yeah.
and then he gets hit by a metal pole
Straight to the face.
straight to the face, and it knocks him off of the train.
Yeah.
So like, he's dead.
Yeah.
How do they explain that one?
They said they had a lot of conversations about that one because they said, like you were talking about, people would just expect him to kind of die from that.
Yeah.
Or at least like throughout the film, like we kept saying like, oh, his face is gonna end up like,
He's gonna be a Red Skull situation.
yeah, where it's just like he has like a face mask over his disfigured
it's like
face.
it's gonna be another Indiana Jones movie where a man's face melts off.
Yeah.
So they had like a two-part reasoning there.
Mhm.
Part one is what he got hit with. They said it's actually just like a soft hose.
That wasn't a soft
It
hose.
wasn't a pipe. It was like a fairly soft hose that they'd use to fill the tanks with. I don't know if I forget if they said gas or water. It's one of those fluids.
No, that was a pipe because it went clunk.
Yeah.
I read the interview. I can pull it up real
You don't have
quick.
to pull it up. The
Okay.
interview's wrong.
It was the
Why would
VFX
you?
team. That's what they
Oh.
were saying.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
wrong, but that's fine.
Look. I
They're
mean,
just making excuses. Continue.
they're
saying
the ones
that.
who put the hose there.
Sure, the pole.
What is the other reason?
The other reason about the fall is they said, well, they actually knocked Mads Mikkelsen off the train and he survived. So that's their.
Off of a speeding train.
I doubt it was speeding, but they're like,
The man at the very least has a concussion for the rest of his life. Like,
Yeah, I think they also would have given him landing pads and
Yeah.
cushions to fall onto.
I'll say there was one more quiet VFX person who was in the interview who just said, quote, he's a tough old bugger.
that's the most realistic answer.
Yeah, I'll take that
I
one
will take
over.
that
It
one.
was actually a soft hose that went clunk.
Did you hear a clunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Oh,
smack.
okay.
Like there's an impact when he's hit
Yeah.
because he's on a moving train.
And
then-
it was a
yeah.
solid pole.
And then the next
Soft hose.
next time that they show him, then he's like, I thought they
He's
were
looking
gonna,
better than ever.
yeah, I thought they were gonna give him the classic bad guy scar down the middle of his face, where it's like, I don't know if you should get that scar from that injury, but sure. But
Yeah.
like nothing. He's perfect Mads Mikkelsen cheekbones,
Yeah.
and he looks great, but not like he got hit in the face with a hose or pole from 20 years ago.
Maybe for a few days he just had like a red line across his face like he got slapped by a hose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen's character is interesting. And I feel like
the
they
whole dynamic is weird because, like,
Yeah.
obviously, like it's the Nazi scientists worked for NASA.
Yeah, so they were inspired by Operation Paperclip, which is a real thing where NASA and the US government was like willing to do whatever to win the space race. So they got like scientists who worked for Nazis to help on the space program. So Voller is one of those scientists, and he is at like the University of Alabama or something as Dr. Schmidt. And he is doing this, like, they establish that he will help NASA, and in return, then they will give him resources for him to find the dial and use that for research. And then he gets them on the moon, and then they're like, we're done now. And someone, I think one of his assistants or someone was like, what did you expect? Like, you got them on the moon and now they're turning against you.
Well,
then-
it's
then another-
because he caused a scene at a festival or a parade.
Then Mason, the CIA operative who is like assigned to him, is like, no, it's because you killed people in New York and incited like military response during a parade. Like,
Yeah.
you're not good at what you do. And then she dies immediately, R.I.P. But he's like, he's interesting because he is like, he immediately doesn't know what to do when something goes wrong, and he wants to kill Hitler, and then
Yeah, and there's a scene where, like,
All the wrong reasons, though.
yeah.
there's a scene where he's at a hotel in New York and room service comes and delivers food, and it's a black man, and then Mads Mikkelsen is like, did you serve?
Mhm.
And the guy's like, yep, I was at Normandy. And then Mads Mikkelsen just goes, you didn't win the war, Hitler just lost it.
Yeah, and then he's like, how are you enjoying your victory? Like,
Yeah.
implying the racial tensions in the U.S. during the 60s. And the
And
guy
the
just...
Nazis would have done better with
Yeah,
it.
right. Like, listen, you're not wrong, but you're not correct either.
Yeah.
Yeah. He immediately just, like, freezes when they're in the plane, and Indiana Jones is like, continental drift. and he doesn't know what to do, and he tries to, like, abort the mission, and then it's too late, and then they get sucked back to 212 BC, and he's just like, he just freezes the whole time, and then he, I don't know, he dies, he goes down in the plane crash, and there's no, like, he comes back for, like, you thought he was dead and now he's back or whatever. There's nothing like that. He just kind of dies in a plane crash, which is fair.
Yeah. Also, like the scene where Mads Mikkelsen and Indiana Jones meet in Morocco after the 20 years before. He tries to, like, I can't tell if he's just being sassy or what, but like Indiana Jones is like, I know you, and then Mads Mikkelsen is like, no, you don't. And Indiana Jones is like, yes, I do. And Mads Mikkelsen is like, no, I'm from Alabama.
Yeah.
With Mads Mikkelsen's regular accent. And then about the dial, Indiana Jones is like, that's my dial. And then immediately Mads Mikkelsen is like, no, it's not. You stole it from me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I didn't quite
Indiana...
get that, because it was just like, no, I'm from Alabama, but you stole that from me 20 years ago in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, he like knows he won't get away with the lie, but also he's like almost trying to save face in front of, because there's other people that are in this auction. So he, like, Indiana Jones is like, my memory isn't great, but I don't remember your name, but I know that you're a Nazi. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge does a bit of a spit take, because like, you can't just call people Nazis in 1969.
Sure.
I guess you can. Yeah. And then he's like, nope, just a Sweet Home Alabama boy, and no one believes him, and then a shootout ensues. Yeah.
Did you have something?
Oh, I mean, you guys covered it. You know, he's just like, you know, he's just trying to play the lie of, I'm from Alabama, except he did it in a German accent.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I failed. Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah.
Take that.
There's Mads Mikkelsen said that he tried to play that character as reserved and like not going into a stereotype of like the overly dramatic like German accent and like screaming dude.
Sure.
And he wanted him to be like not really have a strong accent and to seem like he has fit in pretty and adjusted to American culture pretty well, because he is a scientist first over a Nazi, which, like, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
What do you think? Was he scientist first? Was he Nazi first? What's the feeling?
I mean,
I kind of felt like he was Nazi first.
Yeah, that is his overall goal, but he's like practical in the sense that he's like,
He's a very practical Nazi.
yeah, he's practical in the way that like his motivation, his overall goal is to kill Hitler, because he doesn't think that he's the right leader, and he's like, this is where we went wrong.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our plan was flawless. So I think he's still he's still a Nazi.
Yep.
Yep. Anything else we want to?
Yeah, we kept track of the kill count.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah. So Indiana Jones kills 12 people in this movie.
And 10 of those are within the first sequence.
Yeah. 10 of those are in 1944, and then he gets like at least one assist.
Yeah.
Helena has, I think she killed more than 12. We didn't keep it like super specific track of her numbers, but there's like, as the plane is going down into 12, then she like opens the bomb doors and at least 10 people fall out. So she's got higher numbers than Indy. And then Teddy, our lovable teenager sidekick, has a kill count of 2.
I'll say they aren't confirmed kills.
The one for
of them
sure.
is kind of,
They never showed it.
they don't show it.
Which is why, because Disney's not gonna like show that Teddy killed. But one was he hit someone who was moving on a car with his car and killed for sure.
That person just like dropped.
Yeah, and then the other was he was handcuffed to Big Man.
To the 7'2".
And they together fell into a stream, a really fast-moving rapid, and it went underground. And then there was a grate where there was a hole that Teddy could fit through, but Big Man obviously couldn't fit through it.
Too big.
So Teddy got out of the handcuffs, but then handcuffed Big Man to the grate.
And then swam away.
That's when it became murder, when he handcuffed him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Otherwise, it's like the water did it.
Yeah.
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 It
Up
was-
until then, it's like self-defense, and then handcuffing, it's like, oh. Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy, you for sure killed a man, and you're
Yeah.
gonna live with that forever.
You know what you're doing, yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing that stuck out to me, and I have some more info about it when we get to the production facts, was the de-aging at the beginning. It's such a long sequence that it didn't feel necessary to me. I think at that point, if it was going to be that long, just have someone else be a young Indiana Jones. But part of the reason I think they didn't do that is Harrison Ford is so protective and territorial of Indiana Jones that
It's his favorite role.
it's his favorite role, and he doesn't want anyone else to play him, which I get. And he has said, when I'm gone, he's gone.
Yeah.
So
My problem with the de-aging is that he still had old man Harrison Ford voice. And
yes,
so he looks like young Harrison Ford, but he still sounds like this.
it looked pretty good
For the most part, there were some iffy things.
with the more motion, than
Yeah.
the worse it got.
Like, it looked the best when he was in water.
Yeah,
Because they always look kind of glossy anyways.
yeah.
Like, that's like the biggest, like, I feel like problem that often it has.
Mm-hmm.
There was a scene where they de-aged him about 18 years.
Yeah. So
Um,
there's
That was doable to me because, like,
old man voice made more sense.
old man voice still made sense.
I don't know what year it's supposed to be for that, but it's like 1944. Then he and Basil get the dial, and then mystery year. Then that's the last time that he was at Basil's house, and he takes the dial from him because Basil's research has like driven him mad, and he's like, you have to destroy it. And so he's like graying around the temples, I guess, whatever age that is,
Yeah.
and then old man, 1969. Yeah, so middle year was definitely the best or most realistic.
And did you know, audience, that Indiana Jones was born in the 1800s?
1899, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
July 1st.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Only 1,800 kids will remember.
3 days before America was born.
I also wanted to talk about the characterizations.
Yeah.
They gave context as to why Indiana Jones was grumpy
Mm-hmm.
throughout the movie. You learn that Mutt, his son from the previous film, who was played by Shia LaBeouf, was murdered in the war.
Yeah,
His,
and that's
he
why.
got drafted. What was it?
I think he enlisted
He enlisted.
Yeah.
Sorry,
because he was trying to
upset his dad.
upset his father.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after all of what happened in Crystal Skull, there still was no bonding, and Mutt was still a rebellious little scamp.
So he rebelled by enlisting, and then he died, and
Yeah.
then the grief pushed Indiana Jones and Marion apart, and
Yeah.
that's what ended their marriage.
But they're back together at the end.
Yeah.
So he was super grumpy. I don't know. I know Harrison Ford is old,
Mhm.
and he is grumpy. Like, that's just like his go-to, I feel like now.
Yeah.
But I never thought Indiana Jones was grumpy.
The other thing that I read about his character was, so this is the same director who did Logan, and he is interested.
Old man Jones.
Yeah, he is interested in, like he called it like the hero at sunset, where like they no longer fit the world that exists around them, and there are shots in the trailer, especially that try and highlight that, where like. It's 1969 and everyone is celebrating the moon landing, and so he's like sitting on the subway, and there's a little kid next to him who's like wearing an astronaut helmet, and like there are scenes in the movie where he's then like giving a lecture on things that happened in 212 BC, and clearly no one is paying attention. There's like a kid who's looking out the window at the parade setup that's happening, so like it's all implying that the world is now moving too fast for him, but that also doesn't quite fit. Again, I'm not as familiar, but even for me, who's only seen like 2, 3 of the movies, then like that doesn't quite fit with the image that I have of Indiana Jones. Of like, I don't see him as someone who's like time moves past him. I think he like appreciates the past and is definitely like more comfortable there, but it's not to the point where he's like, we can't move forward.
For a plot synopsis that calls him specifically a daredevil archaeologist,
Yeah.
they kind of took out the daredevil.
Yeah. Like, he does, like, the stunts and stuff that makes him a daredevil.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's not... He's very grumpy.
Yeah.
I was willing to accept the grumpiness only because they did, justify it through killing his son.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's going to do something to a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd probably
So-
be bummed for the rest of
Yeah,
your life.
be bummed for a few days.
Yeah,
and
at least.
I
Yeah.
mean, he could have been killed, a week ago? We don't know.
And within a week, Marianne was like, "You need to get over it."
Like, I'm done with you.
Or divorcing.
Yeah. I also kind of felt that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character was insufferable. I thought she was terrible.
She
Sort of redeemed herself at the end, and there was like one scene. It's when she's like convincing him to come back or whatever. And he's like, "What do I have for me back there?" And she's basically like, "Me."
Yeah,
And
he
it-
says, who am I here for?
Yeah.
Because, like, he's divorced and his son is dead.
Yeah.
And then Teddy and Marion walk through the door and
Yeah.
he's got friends.
And it's just felt like all of her annoyingness throughout the movie was like for that specific moment. I don't know. It was just like,
Yeah.
I
So,
love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think if this had been literally any other person playing that character, it really would have come across as just how terrible.
mhm.
'Cause it was just like every beat, her character was just like, I'm in it for the money. I'm here for money.
She kept claiming that she was in things for the money, but then
And then like
the Indiana Jones also points that out, where he's like, no one memorizes their father's life work who's just in it for the money.
yeah.
So, like, she's got, like, the exterior of being, like, a very shallow person, but it also never really gives you enough of a moment to, like, see who she actually is until the very end when she's like, you need to come back with me and not
Yeah.
die here. So, yeah, she wasn't,
And
like...
she just does so many terrible things to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Of just like, he got framed for murder because she ran away.
She left him,
Yeah, she
Yeah.
locked a gate so he couldn't escape either.
so then he was trapped in the archives with the CIA. Yeah, and then there's something else. Oh, I think like, so she's his goddaughter. Again, it's not clear when Mutt died. It's also not clear when her dad died. But the last time that you see her is in that like mystery year time jump, and she's 12 maybe, and he says he hasn't seen her in like 18 years or something. So like, I think they're trying to establish that she is someone who is like adjacent enough to the interests of Indiana Jones and like knows enough about him that like she's got a lot of his characteristics or interests because of her dad, but then also she didn't have a good role model once her dad died. So now she wants to sell the dial on the black market instead of saying it belongs in a museum and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite do enough. We recorded our freelance episode recently, and I think it's just a similar issue that exists for always of like, you gotta characterize your women in an action movie just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Outside of her dad death.
Yeah.
If Teddy's short round 2.0, is she Mutt 2.0?
I think
no,
so.
yeah, she's definitely Mutt 2.0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
I mean, in a literal sense, also, like, she's...
Mutt was intended to take over, like, in this franchise,
Yeah.
but he was a terrible character, and Shia LaBeouf has said some not great things,
Yeah.
done some not great things, so that
Mhm.
didn't work out. And I think they were like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is pretty cool.
Yeah, they aren't they won't replace Harrison Ford at this point. But they're
As long as Spielberg is alive, I don't think they will.
yeah, and then but there's always like, I think at least within universe the implication of like what would the next generation of this be. So she's definitely set up for that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's fine. meh.
I think they should stop the franchise.
I say we get short round the movie. Ki Wei Kwan's back, and he's basically Indiana Jones.
Well, I'm okay with that, actually. Never mind. Keep it going. But just that.
Yeah. Anything else before production facts?
I don't think I have anything.
There are no snakes in this movie.
They
There-
kind of...
There are eels,
There are eels.
and there are like millipedes. So
Yeah.
there are water snakes and snakes with legs.
Earth snakes. No fire snakes.
Yeah, we got snakes. We got a little bit of whipping back in the past. He whipped a gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he whipped a table, and then they all pulled guns on him.
Yeah, there's a bit of a reversal.
Yeah.
I'll say the scene at the very end with Marianne Ravenwood, I did like that, having it be reversed of like she pointed out places on her body or just, like for him to kiss as the reverse of the first movie where she seduced him by him being like, I'm in pain, and then
Yeah.
she just like slowly kissed him, and I thought that was very cute and very sweet.
Yeah.
I just think like I would have much more enjoyed a movie where Indiana Jones is living a happy, peaceful life. I know it's not like he can still go on an adventure. He can still like get like sucked into an adventure, but like to have him at the beginning be like, no, I don't really do that anymore. I'm happy with my wife. We lost her son, and that was really hard. But we still have each other. I'm still teaching. We're living like this happy old couple life, and then he still gets sucked into an adventure. Like,
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I do also... I also probably would have enjoyed having Indiana Jones just not be so miserable.
yeah.
You know?
Well, also like a lot of the like his parts in this movie, it reminded me too much of Han Solo.
Oh, really? Okay.
Especially because of how they wrote that story in the sequels of Star Wars with Han Solo and Leia kind of separating.
Yeah.
I see.
Because their son died / went to
Yeah.
the dark side.
Spoilers.
Whatever. And like some of his line deliveries just reminded me of grumpy old man Han Solo more than Indiana Jones. Like like original Indiana Jones and original Han Solo, those characters were different. Like it was still Harrison Ford, but like there were definitely differences in those characters enough for me that I wasn't ever like, oh, that's just Han Solo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this one I was like, that's a little Han Solo. I don't know.
I do think it was. I'm trying to remember what I read. If it was Harrison Ford's idea, or if he was just like really, really into the idea of like starting him at zero and building this character back up. I can't remember which one. Either way, it makes sense specifically with this director too, and also like Logan. Yeah, I can definitely see the similarities with both of their careers into this specific project.
There are two more things actually that I want to say, but if you had something to say.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like starting a bit at zero. He'd definitely been that sense of retired from adventure because the CIA shows up. His first instinct is, I'm going to call the police.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine any of the earlier Indiana Jones? He's like, well, I'm going to go call the police
We
because
need the
this is getting out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's framed for murder, and then immediately goes to the JFK airport and hitches a plane.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It was a different time.
No TSA.
Yeah.
The rapids that Teddy and Big Man fall into are because they have to cross a little wooden rope bridge.
Yeah.
But it breaks. It's the only way across, and then it shows everyone later on crossing the bridge again. The bridge is magically fixed.
Yeah, we joked about that when we were watching it because so like they're in the tomb. Mads Mikkelsen puts the dial together and he's like talking a little bit about time and like
I've mastered space now.
Yeah.
I'm going to master time.
Yeah, and then it's that shot of like Helena looking and she sees them like taking Indiana Jones back across the bridge. So we joked like, oh, it's already starting. Like they're already reversing time and the bridge is fixed now.
Because that was such like that to me is a massive continuity error.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
I could try to justify it, but I don't
Do it.
know if it.
Let's do it.
So
Yeah.
I know the handle broke. They were kind of grabbing the handle, right? And they were walking, and then
Yeah.
they kind of whoop.
No, the wood fell.
Yeah, I thought maybe. Oops, sorry. I think maybe one of the planks maybe could have fell, or do you think the whole bridge kind of fell?
Maybe
It's
not
like-
all of it, but at least enough for a 7'2" man and a child to both fall.
Yeah. It was like, so like your classic rope bridge, and then like the two handles on the sides made of rope. What I remember from watching it was like the right hand side snapped, and that made them tumble and go into the water. So like I don't remember if that bottom support on the right side also fell, so then it's just like all of the wood dangling, or if it's just the right side. So like you could maybe justify it.
But the bridge was like fully intact when
But,
they were crossing.
yeah,
like, over
for the
again.
like, it's like a blink and you'll miss it shot, but it was enough also
Yeah.
that we were like, they just had this full sequence. It also stuck out to us because we were counting Teddy's kill count.
Yeah.
So- production facts.
Production facts.
Great. So this movie premiered out of competition at the 76th Annual Cannes Film Festival, May 18th, 2023.
Almost a year ago.
Oh, yeah. It had a theatrical U.S. release date of June 30th, 2023. It received a lukewarm 5-minute standing ovation at Cannes.
What is a lukewarm standing ovation?
Well, Cannes is like known for their standing ovations.
Oh, so, okay.
So it's like when there are those random headlines that are like, this film received a 15-minute standing ovation at Cannes, then it's not like it stood out so much and that no one else received standing ovations. It's that giving a film a standing ovation is the standard.
I
at
see.
That. So lukewarm of only 5 minutes. Anyway.
Sorry, that's
yeah.
such a tradition though. There's like you gotta gauge. Is like
Yeah.
13 minutes is good. If you
Yeah.
can get to 20, you're.
You made a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so dumb. Like, that is...
Could you imagine clapping for 20 minutes?
No, but
Let's
also,
do it. Let's do it right now. We'll practice it for the viewers.
It's just also just like... It's a thing that's surely done for headlines and reviews.
Yes.
For people who don't know.
Yes.
Of just like, oh, it got a 5-minute... Like, that to most people is like, oh, wow, that's really good. But
It's done
no.
for headlines and tradition, basically, because Hollywood loves its own tradition.
I mean, that's France, right?
Yeah, but you know, movie industry.
Hollywood.
Yes.
Hollywood.
It released to streaming August 29th, 2023, and it was in the first place on the video on demand charts as soon as it came out. It has a 2-hour and 34-minute runtime, like we mentioned, and it's rated PG-13. It's got a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes with an 88% audience score, 58 out of 100 on Metacritic, and a B+ on CinemaScore. The Rotten Tomatoes audience consensus says it ends the series on a high note. The critic consensus says it isn't as thrilling as previous installments. Some reviews did point out that the overall feeling was much more fun than Crystal Skull. I kept seeing the word zippy. And then other comparisons to the franchise called this one joyless. So it really depends.
I don't think it was joyless. I definitely think it's better than Crystal Skull.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people as a whole would have been real happy with just the trilogy.
For sure. Yeah, I think they use the word joyless because like there were so many moments that were like callbacks to the franchise, or like the action sequences, or trying to there are moments where it's like very intentionally trying to like be like, see, remember when you liked this so much in the other films, that in comparison it is joyless because it's not trying to be original at that point.
Was it a success?
So it had a budget of $295 to $387 million. I think that 387 is including the marketing budget for the movie.
Gotcha.
It is the most expensive film in the franchise, and it is in the top 10 of the most expensive films ever made. It's number 10. And then at the box office, it earned $384 million, $174.5 million in the U.S., $209.5 million in other territories. It had an estimated loss of $143 million for Disney, which is their biggest since John Carter in 2012. It is also estimated that movie math for money is weird, and we've talked about it on a different episode. So it's estimated that this movie would have had to make $600 million to be considered to break even, and $800 million to be considered a success. It didn't. And then it did finish in first at the box office for its opening weekend, so like people were interested in seeing it. I also saw a stat that said like 58% of the audience that went to see it was over 35. So it's definitely people who grew up with the franchise that went to see it, which makes sense. It's got a considerable production timeline. So in 1979, Spielberg and George Lucas make a deal with Paramount for 5 Indiana Jones films. Their other films happen, obviously. And then we're going to skip forward to 2008. George Lucas is researching potential plot devices for this movie. Apparently their process is like, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and Harrison Ford would kind of get together and be like, this could maybe be an idea for a movie. And then George Lucas would go off and find a MacGuffin and then come back and be like, here's the plan. And then they'd develop from there. So then October 2012, Disney acquires Lucasfilms, and George Lucas seems to hand over development over to the Lucasfilm president, Kathleen Kennedy. 2016, David Cope is hired to write the film, and there is a release date of July 19th, 2019, announced with Spielberg directing. 2017, filming is delayed while Spielberg works on Ready Player One and The Post. There also isn't a final approved script yet, and the release is pushed to 2020. 2018, Jonathan Kasdan replaces Cope. Then 2019, Kasdan leaves the project, and David Cope comes back, saying that they, quote, have a good idea this time. He writes 2 script versions, and neither of them are approved. February 2020, Spielberg steps down as the director. He's replaced by James Mangold in May. Spielberg apparently did remain on as a pretty hands-on producer. And then Cope leaves again with Spielberg, but he is credited as a co-writer on this. And then over the next 6 months, Mangold rewrites the script with Jez and John Henry Butterworth. And then April 2021, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, Thomas Kretschmann are all cast in undisclosed roles. June 4th, 2021, filming begins in the UK at Pinewood Studios. They continue to shoot on location as much as possible. They use Glasgow to recreate 1969 New York, and then moved on to Sicily and Morocco in October of 2021, and then February 26, 2022, filming wraps back at Pinewood Studio. It has won some awards. Grammys, it was nominated for Best Score, Soundtrack for Visual Media, and then won for Best Instrumental Composition for Helena's Theme. The Saturn Awards, it was nominated for 9 categories. It won for Best Fantasy Film and Best Music in a Film. For the Oscars, it was nominated for Best Original Score, which has extended John Williams' record for most nominations for a living person to 54. And then it has also been nominated for Golden Raspberries, nominated for Worst Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel, and Worst Screenplay, but it lost both of them to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Nice.
Yep.
I kind of thought the score was
Fine.
It really wasn't John Williams' best work.
You wanna rag on John Williams a little bit to get you?
No, I love John Williams.
Okay.
But this one, I don't know if it was deserving of an Oscar nomination.
It didn't necessarily stick out to me.
Yeah.
Besides, like, the recognizable, like, ba-da-da-da. And it was like, yeah, we are watching an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
I could not tell you what Helena's Theme is. It didn't stick with me.
Rey's theme from Episode 7, Force Awakens.
That's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
I like that.
Yeah.
See? I'm not ragging on John Williams. I'm just saying.
The tagline for this movie is "A legend will face his destiny."
Of Dial.
Indiana Jones.
A legend, parentheses, Indiana Jones, will face his destiny, parentheses, a dial. This is the only film in the series not directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's also the only film that wasn't conceived by George Lucas and not edited by Michael Kahn. Spielberg and George Lucas are both credited as executive producers. It's also the only film not distributed by Paramount Pictures. They have an in association credit because there was like a weird, like they still made money off of the movie being distributed because of that original 1979 deal. And Harrison Ford suggested they hire James Mangold. They had known each other from The Call of the Wild from 2020.
That dog movie. It's the CGI
Yeah.
dog movie.
Yeah. And then, so Mangold was a producer on that, and then Mangold also offered Ford a role in his 2019 movie, Ford versus Ferrari.
It's a good movie.
Haven't seen it.
Would have been totally different if they put Ford in it.
Yeah.
He had the title, they didn't have the script yet. But
Mangold was hesitant to take the director role because of the time crunch that it required at the time. Filming would have begun 6 months after he got the job so that they could meet the then 2021 release date. But then the pandemic happened, and it gave him the time that he wanted for development, and it also stopped pre-production on his Bob Dylan biopic.
With Timothy Chalamet? Or is it a different one?
I believe it's that one.
Okay.
I could check, but I'm just going to say it's that one. And if it's misinformation, shucks.
Yep.
So Spielberg and Cope came up with the opening sequence starting in World War II, featuring a DH Harrison Ford, and their original sequence lasted about 5 minutes, and then Mangold expanded it to 25. There are over 100 industrial light and magic artists who worked on the sequence over a 3-year period, and apparently getting Harrison Ford's eyes right was a difficult process. 2008, George Lucas talked about the importance of a MacGuffin that is supernatural but grounded with historical/archaeological background, saying, quote, "You can't just make something up like a time machine." And then Mangold came up with the time travel element for this movie, saying, "It's no more of a wild swing in my mind than ghouls flying out of a box and melting people's heads through the sheer power of dark angels, or a 700-year-old knight existing in a cave for perpetuity. These are all beyond the scope of physical belief," which is fair. And then previous script versions by Cope apparently just had a relic MacGuffin similar to other films in the series. It didn't really have, like, a personal connection to Indiana Jones in the way that this movie tried to do.
Yeah, so I'll say it. My problem with the time travel and Mangold saying that it's no different, whatever, is that in this movie, he explains that by Mads Mikkelsen repeatedly saying, "It's just math."
well, you don't know math?
That's true. You do.
Math can lead you to abilities that some might say are unnatural.
Like counting.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, they do just say, like, it's not a magic. Indiana Jones keeps saying, like, "I don't believe in magic," and then they're like, "This is just math," and then they don't explain beyond that. They're just like, "Yeah, Archimedes was able to predict time fissures, but not continental drift." That's still so funny to me.
Yep.
Karen Allen said that she was happy to return, but wished that she had a larger role in this movie. Spielberg's version that he pitched at one point over the years had Marion in more scenes with Jones.
See, this is why if they had been happy together, she could have gone on the adventure with them.
Right.
Saved their goddaughter
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, as a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's a family film.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think that's a just much better idea. I'm going to need them to remake it.
Okay.
Let's get Harrison Ford in there.
Steve.
He's only got one plane crash left in him.
Do you think ILM, they've got the face technology down, could they just put her on top of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's face every now and then and just, so they don't have to refilm it? I mean, it's hard to refilm. They
See
just
if people notice.
put Marion's face on Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and then rewrite the script just a little bit,
Yeah.
and I think that
Sure.
would make it work.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Get on it, guys. It'll only take another 3 years. So Mutt didn't seem to be a consideration in any script draft. So Shia LaBeouf was critical of Crystal Skull and Spielberg when the movie came out, but everyone says that apparently wasn't a factor of if he would or would not appear in this one. He didn't appear in Cope's original draft or any of his drafts. And then Mangold said there's only so many people you can squeeze into the picture, and quote, I don't think his whole thing worked that well in the previous film. Which I agree, but also it's very funny to be like his whole thing of being Indiana Jones's son wasn't working.
Yeah.
They had talked about like if it was better to kill him off, or Mangold justified it saying like you got to kill Mutt off because it's almost sadder than just say that someone is on the periphery of a story and not following up with them at all, and then just leaving them in purgatory and like not doing anything with that character.
Yeah.
Which is fair, and I don't think anyone is super attached to Mutt, including Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, maybe because they named him Mutt.
Yeah. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Because he's named after the dog.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge did a lot of her own stunts. So did Harrison Ford. Ford got injured during a rehearsal of throwing a punch at Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know if it was at Mads Mikkelsen or just like the stand-in for Mikkelsen's character, but he messed up his shoulder and had to stop filming for a little bit. 2016, the Disney CEO Bob Iger said that the future of Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford was up for debate, but the fifth film wouldn't be the last in the series. And then basically everyone since then has been like, this is it. We're done now.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone has said that like it's not going to be recast as long as Harrison Ford is around, for sure. And then in March 2023, Lucasfilm plans for future films and or TV shows that were in development were scrapped in favor of focusing on Star Wars. So
no sequel series to The Young Adventures of Indiana Jones.
No. Unfortunately, I don't know much about that show besides the fact that it exists.
Have you watched it?
Some of it.
Okay.
Have you watched it?
Is it good?
It's alright.
I haven't seen it.
It's whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, the dog. Ratings?
Yeah.
We always rate. We out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh, no, stop. 1 is it was a movie. 2 is well made. 3 is enjoyable and kind of technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave it a 2. It was a well made movie. I've got a decent amount of complaints and issues. Some things just don't work for me. I think I'm more critical than there are more parts that I'm critical of than I enjoy.
That's fair. I also gave it a 2. It is a well-made movie. I think it's almost fun for this franchise specifically. I saw another review that said like the premise of this movie is good for like an action movie, but it said it's not deserving of the whip. So like it's not a bad idea, just it needed something else to be an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
And I agree.
What's interesting is you said 4 is Oscar worthy, and it technically was Oscar
No, but
nominated.
this is what we think it's Oscar worthy, and I even said.
Yeah, you even said you did say
No.
you said you hate John Williams. You said he's
not true. You
he's
can roll
overrated.
back the tape. You can roll back the tape.
You said you hate anyone over 90, and he's 91.
specifically-
And that's why you didn't like this Indiana
There's
Jones?
Specifically, I say I love John Williams. All of this stuff about age, I do agree with.
Okay. Well, as long as you like John Williams.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3. I liked it. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was enjoyable, but I didn't know, and I wasn't really thinking it was necessarily Oscar worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I liked it. Thank you for your movie.
Oh, right. That's our
Yes.
sequel podcast.
Thank you for your movie. we just we just watch movies and we try and find all the positive things about them. We just say
I like that.
thanks for making it. You sure did.
That's my podcast on the periphery. I'm
Yeah.
just
Well, as always, we talk about other movies that we've watched recently that aren't from 2023. I watched, and you watched part of it with me.
Mm-hmm.
John Carter,
Yes.
the bigger flop.
The movie that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I did happen to watch that recently.
Yeah.
Um,
What
it-
did you think?
Honestly, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had more fun watching that than watching Dial of Destiny.
Mm.
Didn't even mention Dial of Destiny is a terrible title.
Oh yeah.
It's real lame, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Dial.
Dial of yeah.
Yeah.
John Carter though, is fun. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I did have fun watching it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's good parts. It's your dad's.
yeah. You definitely made this podcast for my dad. Like he loves both of these movies.
Yeah.
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 Shout out.
If he's watching, which
He
Maybe.
might.
he might.
Yeah.
Hi, Papa.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I think it is like if you want another like big budget action movie,
Mm-hmm.
it's a fun one to watch, and yeah, it's just good to like put on.
Yeah.
Have something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, John Carter?
They go to the planet Barsoom,
Barsoom.
which get ready for a twist. It's Mars.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be the dog.
Wait, Barsoom was
Named after the dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe's an alien.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Yeah, he's one of the green aliens.
Wow. Good for him.
Mark Strong is in it.
Mm-hmm.
John Carter is played by the guy who plays Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. That's where I knew him from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give us a like, give us a subscribe, comment, ring that bell, follow us on Instagram,
Ring that bell.
shout us out on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
give us money on Patreon,
Bop that, bop it.
and
Leave comments and or questions, and we'll respond on our other podcasts, virtual house sessions that we do. Anything else? We good?
I think we're good. I think we're about to get whipped out of here.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
whip you.
Indiana Jones classic phrase.
You want whipped?
And he asks first.
He
and
asked for consent.
He goes, "I'm gonna whip you. Want to get whipped? I'm Indiana Jones. I'm a daredevil archaeologist."
I'm named after a dog.
But I'm respectful of your wishes. Oh, I didn't even do a Harrison Ford impersonation.
Would you
Now's
like to
the
do?
time.
Would you like whipped?
And with that, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Come on, get.